And there we go.
Okay, yeah. So one of the big things, I am a school resource officer, so we've been welcoming just recently getting the middle schoolers back. We had the little kinder through 5th grade back, and now we have middle schoolers, and then the high schoolers should be back on the 22nd. But I tell you, from being in the schools and having the kids back, it's awesome. It's getting closer to being a little bit more back to normal, if you could say. But you know, the kids are doing great. The teachers have been super flexible and have come up with a fantastic plan to keep the kids safe and get back in touch with them. And so far it's going really good. So that's been exciting. As far as neighborhood crime report, for the most part, things have been fairly quiet. There was one act of vandalism. Looks like there's 2 thefts, probably thefts from vehicle. And then one DUI was caught in the neighborhood. We had 1 runaway and 1 trespassing. So there's it's starting to pick up a little bit, but we definitely see a trend with the weather getting better. A lot of times, you know, folks are working in the yard, they forget to close their garage door and whatnot. So you get thefts from homes. So if you happen to see your neighbor's garage door open, a lot of times people steal a bike or something. So just giving your neighbors a heads up, double checking your garage door, definitely locking your vehicle and not keeping anything of value in there. That's kind of it in a nutshell. Does anybody have any questions?
Whatever happened with that guy that like got caught hassling the police over there right by our local middle school, West Sylvan Middle School, unfortunately, which is, well, not fortunately, unfortunately, but it is a Portland school, not a Beaverton school. So therefore, some of the reports don't show up
Right.
as part of Beaverton rather than part of Portland. But yeah, there was these 2 guys that got into a hassle with the city, excuse me, with the police right across the street from that school just last year. Whatever happened with that?
I'll have to double check and get back to you. I'll let Officer Wilson know about that question. But you know, it's interesting with West Sylvan is that it is a Portland school, but since it falls under Beaverton jurisdiction boundaries, I was actually the SRO there last year, and there was a Portland SRO, so we worked together on that school. It's kind of a unique location.
Yeah, it's complicated.
Yeah, yeah, but the main thing, you know, we both go and then sort it out. He's a fantastic SRO. So yeah, no, I'll ask Officer Wilson about that incident, like have her update you on that incident.
I have a question about catalytic converters.
Yes.
Seem to be a new or a recent emergence of a lot of catalytic converters being cut out. And I thought when this happened several years ago that there was some legislation passed that basically made that not a viable option for the thief. But obviously something has changed. Do you, you know,
yeah,
update us?
Yeah, so back in the day when that was happening, we ended up catching the thieves that were doing that. There was also the legislation as far as the recycling companies. So they were, it kind of made it almost impossible for them to recycle them. Unfortunately now, so again, people evolve and come up with new plans, even if it's nefarious. They're finding out that some of these newer hybrid cars actually have 2 catalytic converters in them. So you get 2 for the price of 1 on a car. So there's an uptick in that. And they've, can't tell you everything because it is under investigation, but I think we're narrowing it down. It's more of a crime ring because the thieves are trying to take the precious metals that are inside the catalytic converters, but to get to the metals, it's quite a process. It's not one of those that you can really actively do in your garage. So they have a location and some other folks involved that are receiving the stolen items and then breaking them down. So it's a much bigger thing than just a, you know, a local thief. We might be onto something. So hopefully soon you'll see that that hopefully go away as far as crime that we're experiencing. But yeah, that's kind of it in a nutshell.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. As a driver of a Prius, yeah, I'm wondering whether
Yeah.
I should take measures. People have been promoting a plate or something that you could put underneath it to make it less easily extracted.
Yeah, absolutely. And if at all possible, if you're able to park it in your garage, so that way they don't even know. Yeah, for sure.
Thank you.
Yep. Thank you. That was good.
That was Terry Lawler, by the way. Our BCCI rep, and since she's online and happy to help, what's our latest BCCI report?
Okay. Well, I'm on the agenda a little bit later, so I'll wait for that one, but I'll just give a brief.
Oh, I'm gonna let you go now.
Well, we have our other guest speakers.
I didn't
I mean,
know.
I'm happy to wait, you know, after Troy, let Troy kind of do his thing. But let me just give you a brief update. You may have received a card in the mail letting you know of a virtual voters forum that is going to be held
Exactly.
April 29th. We have a May 12th primary, and there are a number of offices that are going to be where there are candidates posted for those offices. And we're going to have in our virtual voters forum, 2 of those groups at our forum. One of them is the Beaverton City Council position #1. So this card has 4 members down. So that will be an interesting, given COVID restrictions, this is probably going to be our only opportunity to meet these folks. There's probably a couple other forums around. Usually the League of Women Voters have forums, but so be sure to check it in, check out this, because again, might be our only opportunity. And another race that we'll be covering in this voters forum is the Tualatin Hills Parks and Rec. I guess there's actually 3 positions available on that board, and we will, those 3 candidates for those 3 positions will be asked questions in our voters forum. So hopefully everybody got their card. It just showed up in the mail this week. And the way you watch it, it is, because it's virtual, you need to go online, and you'll find it at beavertonoregon.gov/votersforum. And we are soliciting questions. So if you have questions for these candidates, please, by April 26th, forward those questions to the neighborhood office. And that's how we get the questions for these candidates. So if you have a burning issue and you'd like our candidate to discuss it, please, maybe like West Slope Park, possibly, might be a burning issue for our THPRD group. Anyway, that's the BCCI report that I'd like to give. Anybody have any questions? And I'll be talking later about traffic calming, but
There we go.
I'll wait that's later on the agenda.
We'll
So thank
have
you.
plenty of time later.
Okay.
All right. So thank you for that. Let's go to Clay. Oh, excuse me, Troy Schader.
Darn it.
Clay, no. Clay's not, no, we're not ready for Clay yet. Troy Schader, THPRD.
Thank you, Carl. Good evening. Good seeing everybody again. I'm Troy Schader. I'm your THPRD NAC representative. I've got some updates for April for you. So THPRD spring registration is open. You got to visit our website, and those classes are available to be registered for right now. So if that's something you want to do, get on there and take a look. Also, save the date for summer registration. We're offering a lot more summer camp options this year. So that's good. We're expanding what we can offer. the in-district summer registration actually opens Saturday, May 1st. So again, check the website and browse through that and see what we have available. And again, it's that opens May 1st for registration. I want to let you know that we're expanding our multilingual welcome center. This expands the ability for registration assistance to be done in several different languages. So, you know, that's good. There's also some of the service will be handled through a language line, so they can handle, you know, quite a few different types of languages and help people get registered that way. I wanted to let you guys know that we're hiring. So we had, you know, a mass kind of layoff happen during COVID, and we're starting to hire back. So we're hiring a lot of part-time and seasonal positions. So if you're interested, or if you know people that are looking for some employment, have them take a look at our website, because we are trying to pick up some folks for like summer programming and even on the maintenance side, stuff like that.
Can I just show up and run one of those sticks that picks up trash?
Well, we do have opportunities to do that. That'd be more a volunteer type of position, but we are looking for, you know, park, what's the term? We do have a lot of volunteers that do that in our parks for us, and it gives a good presence out there too. So we do have a Ryce volunteer recruitment, and this is for, we're recruiting teens age 14 and over that are interested in training as a youth leader. Participants have the opportunity to learn leadership and communication skills, and kind of get just accustomed to being in the workforce. So it's a good kind of like internship type of opportunity. They need to commit 50 hours of service. You can earn school community service requirements, and types of things you're doing is habitat restoration, garden work parties, community and cultural events. So that's a good opportunity for maybe some of the high school students to kind of get their foot in the door on employment.
Cool.
See what else I've got here. We've got a city nature challenge coming up. So this challenge is a community science event to observe and document as many plants and wildlife as possible in a 4-day period. People participate in this from around the world, and this year is the first time that the greater Portland, Vancouver metro area will be participating. So the details of that are on our website. So
That's cool.
yeah, we got some things coming down the pipe. So it's good to kind of start opening up and offering some more opportunities for people. But does anyone have any questions for me?
Is everyone allowed to go back swimming in the pools?
Yeah, well, yes and no. So we have a couple pools open. Raleigh Park actually is one of our pools that is open right now. And the HMT Aquatic Center pool is open. It's, you know, limited availability on getting in, so you can't just drop in to swim. You need to make reservations, and there's certain times. So that'll be on the website as well, but you do have to kind of plan in advance if you want to reserve time to get in the pool.
So that, yeah, that situation will change somewhere in the future. But unfortunately, that's the way it is, right?
Correct. Yeah. There's a lot of factors that go into that. You know,
Troy, did you say Raleigh Park pool is open?
Raleigh Park pool has actually been open all winter long. In fact,
Really?
yeah, they raised the temperature in the pool to like 85 degrees since it's an outdoor pool, and it gave the opportunity to be able to provide lap swim and a lot of swim team type of activities when the other pools weren't able to open.
All right. Thank you, Troy.
Yeah, thank you. I've got to take off. My wife's a nurse and she's working, so got to tend to the family.
We'll let you go.
All right.
All right. My
Thank you,
house,
Troy.
I think-
Right.
Thanks for having me.
Actually, while Clay's here, let's have Clay and let's get, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. I appreciate your
All right.
Do you mind if I share my screen?
Oh, share away.
What do you got?
Just various websites that would give you good information for what I wanted to update you about.
Okay.
All right. It's not giving me an option to share. Well, let's see, hold on a second here. Just give me a URL, so let's try this one.
Yeah, actually, the last time we saw Clay was when he came by to explain the new cards that they had.
New cars?
Yeah, when you guys updated from cash to
Yeah. The HOP electronic fare system.
exactly.
Something we were talking about at the time, yeah. So,
Yeah. 'Cause
there's several things I wanted to update you about. So hopefully I'll have enough time for this and answer questions as well. So of course, the thing that's kind of top of mind for a lot of folks right now with TriMet is COVID and what we're doing with that and what the future of our transit system is and the health of our riders. And so one of the things I wanted to update you on is, of course, that we've been heavily impacted. Our ridership has been heavily impacted by COVID. We're probably only at about 40% of our normal ridership right now, but that is gradually starting to tick upwards. We're starting to see a few more travelers from outside the city who are coming in for small events. Travel Portland's really trying to do a big push through several of the travel platforms to get people to come here on a regular basis or on weekends and so forth. And there's just a kind of a little bit more of now that people are getting vaccinated, there are more people going back into the office, we're noticing. So we're starting to see ridership go up a bit in terms of our trains and buses. Most of it's buses, but we are starting to see more activity on trains as well. And so we've been sanitizing our vehicles every night. They pull into the yards, including anything basically that someone would touch on on any of the vehicles. And then we're also going through and doing kind of a defogging mist that basically kind of refreshes everything that's in there, including the air and basically anything that people touch as well. So one piece of good news, since we've been doing that quite a while, and of course vaccinations are a big part of the news right now, and it is for TriMet as well, because next week we will start our COVID vaccination centers for TriMet employees. And they'll be at various locations, primarily the 3 garages that we have. Of course, one of them is there in Merlot in Beaverton. And so they'll be doing one of them there. And the first employees that will be vaccinated are the frontline employees, meaning our operators, field supervisors, customer service teams that go out on the street and so forth. So they'll be the first ones to get vaccinated, and then eventually 100% of or hopefully 100% of our employee base will be vaccinated as well. So we're not sure exactly how long that will take, but we're moving through it pretty fast. I'm sorry, do you have a question?
Yeah, Clay, is it a requirement to be vaccinated then to be an employee?
No, it isn't. I'm not sure how they're going to handle that. We've been pretty open about this, just trying to make sure that people understand that we can't force someone to get the vaccine. And so we will basically handle the situation as we see it come up. In most situations, though, most of the folks are wanting and are very anxious to get that vaccine. So we'll see how that works. But then beginning next week, most of our employees will also have an opportunity to get vaccinated. And many of them have already through the vaccine centers that they've set up, especially there at the Oregon Convention Center. And so that's something that's moving ahead pretty quickly. And so I think you're going to start to see a gradual change in ridership, people starting to feel more comfortable going out, using it for commuting. And of course, there is something that may change in terms of service, and that is where people are actually returning to work. A lot of the folks are preferring to stay at home. For folks businesses that rent or lease space in office buildings, it's less expensive to have people stay at home. But there are a lot of online workers and also workers who are out there on assembly lines and who need to be there, have to be there because they're hands-on. So those are folks that may start to see and may start to demand more service. So we may start to apply, and of course we always apply service where it is most needed. So we don't know exactly how telecommuting is going to affect us and how much or how prevalent it will be, but it is seems to be pretty popular right now. And we're anticipating that it'll take several years for us to get back up to the pre-COVID ridership numbers that we. The last estimate that I heard from scheduling and service planning was about 3 to 4 years before we actually get back to that level. So it'll take a while. What questions can I answer about COVID?
Well, do you think you might get any funding from the federal government to help out?
We are. There are some COVID dollars that we have been able to use for establishing these vaccine centers. And so that's something that we really kind of tried to prioritize, because as soon as we got to that, in fact, we're getting about 1,000 doses of the vaccine this week, and we're opening up the centers next week. So that was part of what helped us pay for all that.
The only time I ride the Max line, back when I used to go downtown to go see a show, which doesn't happen anymore. But how is there a way to maintain social distancing and masks and everything for everyone to ride on the Max line, for instance?
Well, that one's kind of difficult because there's no one there to really monitor their behavior like there is on a bus. And so we still have our field supervisors and non-police security folks who go out and basically monitor the areas, kind of take a look at Max trains as they come through. But of course, this website and all of the media push that we've been doing around this website and what we're doing to help people keep people safe has been one of the primary ways that we've been trying to educate people about the 9-point plan for safety and strong transit here in this area. So I encourage anybody who wants to know more about this to go to this website, trimet.org/health. And it'll give you a lot of information, including some good information. This YouTube video just talks about riding a bus during the COVID-19 pandemic. But there's also information on here specifically about Max and the safety measures you would want to take when riding Max. It is something that we see more riders on Max because they have more room to spread out, because they're 2-car consists, and so we have more room for them to spread out. So some people may prefer that method of commuting because they do have a little bit more space. But just like our buses, sometimes those trains get crowded too. And so we are continually trying to keep people distanced at 3 feet. We have signage inside all the vehicles, both bus and Max. And we also have cleaning hand sanitizers and also masks available on both bus and Max, so that you can get a free or a fresh mask when you come on, and you can also sanitize your hands. So again, that's something that is listed here in this webpage. So I encourage you to take a look at it if you're interested in it, and take a look. Any other questions about COVID?
Hey, what happened? There we are.
All right. So let me give you a little bit more information about a service disruption that is coming up. I think you might be moderately interested in. For many of you, if you know this, we have been in a long-term repair project or repair plan, basically, for the Max Blue line. It is the oldest line in our system, opened in 1986. And it has a 30-year, the pieces of it, many of the switching pieces and curb track and so forth, have about a 30-year lifespan. So around 2016, we started doing a lot of repair in high traffic areas to replace pieces that wear out very quickly. And as you can see, there are going to be some Max disruptions, and some have already happened. The West Side one has already taken place, April 12th through the 25th. It's actually happening right now, sorry. And, that was all done. And then Gateway already occurred this last weekend, 17th and 18th. The two that are coming up, only one of them actually impacts you folks. So let me give you a little bit more information about the one that really would impact you. This first one here, May 3rd to the 7th, that's one far out on the east side, in between 122nd Avenue and Civic Drive stations. So that wouldn't really impact you here, unless for some reason you were visiting friends or taking Max out to that area. Then you might see that happening. And in this situation, what we're doing is simply closing, just using a shuttle buses to serve stations during the times in which the tracks are being repaired in that area. So that's a pretty small one. This one is bigger. This is one that's going to take place from May 15th through the 23rd. And as you can see from the map, what we're doing here is they're in that center section where you notice the 7th Avenue, Lloyd Center, Hollywood, 60th and 82nd Avenue MAX stations. Those will be served by shuttle buses during that time, because what we're doing is right smack in the middle of all of that, right around 33rd Avenue, is a section of curved rail in between the Lloyd Center station and the Hollywood station. That is, we go through fairly high speeds through there, and it's a big curved area, so it gets a lot of wear and tear. So they're replacing that section of track. And so, and they're also going to be doing some work at Gateway again at one of the crossings there where buses cross over the rail. So in both those areas, they'll be doing work, and we'll be using shuttle buses to ferry people between those MAX stations all the way from Gateway to the Lloyd District, the 7th Avenue MAX station. And so again, that'll be happening from May 15th to the 23rd. And so if you're traveling at that time, for you folks, if you're going to the airport, this might impact you, or going out to that area for any reason. You will see a situation where you have to deboard at 7th Avenue, get on a shuttle bus. It'll take you all the way to Gateway, where you can reboard whatever train you want to board at that point, green, red, or blue. And so you would want to plan a little extra time for doing this. I would say about an extra 30 minutes would be a good idea for getting to the airport if you want to use MAX to get there during this time.
Is that in any way going to coordinate with the work that ODOT's doing on the highway in the meantime?
No, but we are in discussions with them about that. That's a fairly long-term
showing up
project.
next month.
Yeah, it's not connected to this one, this particular project. But yeah, we know all about that, and there may be some impacts that project will have at the Rose Quarter Transit Center. So we're not sure yet, but we will keep you informed as we know more about that.
Well, you guys might be able to coordinate.
Possibly, we will coordinate whenever possible. And we actually have regular coordination meetings about all of our projects within the city, and we have another one Thursday morning. So we'll be talking about it again.
Excellent.
Any questions about this particular MAX disruption?
I have a general question. When you have these disruptions and you have shuttle buses, do the shuttle buses then stop at all of the stops? So that will shuttle people, or do they just go from one end to all the way to Gateway? You know,
it depends. In this particular circumstance, we will make all the stops. So for instance, we will stop at all of those MAX stations that are listed there in that kind of black and white dotted area. So basically between Gateway and 7th Avenue, all those stations in there will be served by those shuttle buses. That doesn't always is the same situation. Sometimes when we do shuttles, the main purpose behind them is to get immediately or as fast as possible from point A to point B, and they may travel on roads that have bus stops for other bus lines. In a lot of those situations, we will not stop at those stops because it's a shuttle bus. It's not supposed to serve those stations. And sometimes the only reason that we would is because it's close to a MAX station or a transfer stop.
mm-hmm. Yeah, just thinking about people who are trying to get to the airport and
Yes.
want to get there quickly.
Oh, yes. So yeah, this is one of the longest bus bridges we've ever done. And so it will be interesting to see how well it works. I think it's very well planned. We've got some good routes, most of them large streets with bus service already on them, so we can move quickly. So I think it should work out well.
Okay.
Let's see, how much time do I have left here?
You got time for one more question, which we always bug you about every time we
Okay.
get somebody.
Sure.
Can we get some parking up at the zoo in order for us to jump on the MAX line?
Well, the zoo has had and will again, because it's Oregon's largest attraction, the state's largest attraction, is having trouble actually being able to fill or find parking spaces for folks who are coming to the locations that are up there. So World Forestry Center and the zoo. They actually had wanted to build an off-site area and have TriMet shuttle people back and forth between that off-site parking locations near Sylvan, I think, somewhere. And so that they're kind of in a situation where they need more parking, especially once things get back to normal and they have more people coming to the zoo. They're going to need all that parking. There really isn't a whole lot that we can do, especially that close in when it comes to park and ride. The only property that we actually own at the zoo is where the station is. Everything else up there is managed by Metro. And we actually have a lease with Metro in order to use that space because it's kind of their property. So whether or not they would allow us to even have a park and ride there is unlikely based on their parking issues that they have already. And also because we have park and rides that are further out, further west, that are not being fully utilized. And as soon as any parking spaces open up for a park and ride, they are taken up very, very quickly, just like they are at the Sunset Transit Center. It's very hard to find a parking space there before about 6, maybe 5 a.m. in the morning. So it's a tough one, but I certainly understand your desire for a park and ride and something in that neighborhood. And thank you again for bringing it up, because it is something that I think if we look at it a little more closely, we might be able to find something for you in that area. The zoo is it's so unlikely. I think I mentioned to you before, they also use some of their parking spaces at the archery range. They're on the road in between the Japanese garden and the zoo. They have a tough time just finding enough parking spaces for their folks. And I'm not sure yet what the future of the Portland Children's Museum is. It closed recently, and I don't think they had their own parking. Or if they did, it was a very limited number, maybe for staff. So we do have a pretty good relationship with the Explore Washington Park, TMA, Transit Management Association. They basically manage that whole area up there. So I think the next time I speak with them, I'm just going to inquire about their parking situation. I would ask them about your desire and anybody in the neighborhood who may want parking spaces, and just get back to you about that, because we've never actually spoken to them about it. We only know what their situation is because they've communicated it to us. But I'm gonna have a conversation with them and ask them about that. And maybe there's something that they're thinking of that we don't know about yet. Maybe they're planning on doing or want to do something like that.
We know a spot where that would work, no problem.
Well, let me have a conversation with you, Carl, and I'll get back to you and let you know what they say. I know that you had been interested in a couple of other open properties near your area that might make a good park and ride. As we mentioned the last time, we weren't really in a financial position to do that. We don't know yet exactly what our financial position is going to be as related to COVID. We obviously know our fare box revenue is way down, but most of our funding doesn't come from the fare box. So it really comes from employer payroll tax and the HB 2017 road tax. So those two are still there, but they depend on employers and businesses being doing well, and businesses aren't doing well right now. So, but they will gradually start to improve. How fast, we just don't know. And so that's really what we're kind of looking at just in terms of ridership. We want the ridership to get back up to the level that it was at before. But I think it's still worth a conversation with the Washington Park TMA just to see what they're thinking on that topic, just to kind of get a little bit more information about how they see the future of that parking area.
Cool.
Then the question is, anything I can answer for you?
All right, Clay, thanks a lot.
All right. Thank you, folks. Appreciate it. All right. Any other questions, Carl, just shoot me an email. Happy to answer them for you.
All right.
Thank
Take
you.
care.
All right. There's Edwin. Kent. Hey, we're okay. Who's next? Shoot. Not Lily. Not Miles. Well, yeah. Hey, Jerry. Yeah. Where's the engineer from the city? Oh, the guy with the really long last name, Mark Bulagowski. Where's Mark?
Right here, right next to Eduardo.
Hey, you guys. All right, you're off.
I'm going to be sharing my
Sorry
screen.
to keep you waiting. Actually, you're early, so we're cool.
Okay, I'm going to be sharing my screen for a PowerPoint presentation.
So just to keep everybody up to speed, this is a neighborhood improvement project that's going in along Canyon Lane and 75th Avenue. Okay. Hello.
Well, good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us
There he
today.
is. All right.
for this update on the 75th Avenue storm drainage. Well, let's begin first with what is a CIP? Well, a CIP stands for Capital Improvement Program, and the city of Beaverton has a CIP list that prioritizes the needed improvements and expansions of city infrastructure systems. These improvements are needed in order to maintain adequate service levels to city residents and city businesses. And every fiscal year, the CIP list is updated and adopted by the city council. The goal of the CIP list is to reflect the needs and priorities established by the city, and also to see what resources available are there for the city. So you might ask yourself, how does an area or neighborhood get included in this CIP list? Well, the first step would be for a resident or a neighborhood or an agency to fill out and submit the CIP nomination form for the city of Beaverton. And this can be found online on the city of Beaverton website.
Yeah,
Shown on
this
the
is what we want for our sidewalks.
shown on the screen is the hyperlink that would directly take you to the nomination form, or you could just simply Google City of Beaverton CIP nomination form, and you'll be directed to the Beaverton webpage that talks more in depth about the CIP and even provides previous fiscal year CIP list. And on the slide, it might be difficult to see, but on the right is what the CIP nomination form looks like online. And it has everything that has to be completed and submitted in there. So once the nomination form is complete and submitted to the city, and the city receives it, the city engineer will assign city staff to study and review the area that it was desired. So for this neighborhood, a storm sewer associate engineer was assigned to run a study on the storm drainage of Southwest 75th Avenue and Southwest Canyon Lane. Afterwards, once all this respectable data is gathered, a group of city staff sits down and reviews all the developed material and decides on the next step. So on February 22nd, 2020, the owner of 2200 Southwest 75th Avenue completed and submitted this CIP nomination form, and the city received it, and the city engineer assigned an associate engineer to study the storm drainage on 75th Avenue and Canyon Lane. The analysis included looking at the existing drainage pattern and its history. That led to a preliminary conceptual solution that complies with the city design standards, as well as an estimate of probable right-of-way and construction costs was developed. The city utilities program manager reviewed the conceptual plan and estimate. During this review, the manager considered design alternatives, cost versus benefit, ratepayer equity, and utility budget forecast. There were some interesting findings when looking at the storm drainage of 75th Avenue. The first finding was that the existing drainage way where Southwest Canyon Lane once discharged has been patched together with a combination of unpermitted and private piping and an open area flow. And the subject property, 2200, lies in this existing drainage way. The second finding was that Southwest 75th Avenue is a private road and it is not a city public right-of-way. So we are not really allowed to install a public storm drain system in that area. The third finding, with that said, is that not all property owners are willing to provide an easement. Some property owners are only willing to sell the easement or sell property, and that would be another expense for the project. One last finding was that the existing underground sewer, water, gas, and telecommunication lines there are underneath 75th Avenue were designed and constructed in such a way that it is not really possible to construct a storm drain line without relocating these private utilities. And since these utilities are not in public right of way for the city, all costs associated with relocating these utilities will be another project cost for the city. And so as of today, April 20th, the current conclusions are that the preliminary conceptual solution that complies with the city design standard is in an excess of $1.5 million. And staff's opinion is that this project is for the betterment of private property and not for the public right of way. Therefore, this project would be ranked as low priority. And in addition to that, the city's 10-year storm drainage CIP does not have enough storm drain funds in the budget to fund a project of this priority level. Staff did have some recommended actions that we could do. First is that we could list the project concept on the stormwater drainage master plan's needs list. Plus, we could also provide low-cost private alternatives for residents to consider, which is what I'll be doing next. So this is the first alternative that residents could consider, which consists of removing the existing pavement on 75th Avenue from property 2205 to about property 2135. After the pavement is removed, which is about maybe 200 feet of length, gravel would be put instead. And this new grade would be about 2.5 inches lower than the existing surrounding grades, which should allow more storm drainage. Another alternative would be constructing a roadside ditch, which is would be parallel to property 2135 Southwest 75th Avenue, and an installation of a Kingsman trench drain that will go from property 2200 to 2135. This drain would drain out on the roadside ditch, and this ditch would also have a couple turns until it reaches the beginning of the creek.
Are the people
This would be
are they hip to it?
well, this options will not be city funded projects. This would be more of private residential projects where neighbors will need to discuss and implement the solution. And these are only two alternatives of many out there that might work to reduce the storm drainage, but these were two alternatives that the city decided to provide as maybe some methods to be able to reduce the storm drainage. So with that, that's the conclusion. Does anyone have any questions?
I could have, when I first talked to the people, what was it, 2200 or whatever, my friend Jerry, there was some question that the houses in behind him going up the slope and up into the THPR&D property would be involved, because that's where all the water's coming out of. And since the THPR&D property has not been developed yet, there would be a chance that we could that we could find a way to get the water in and around his particular property and the other properties across the street from him in order to get it into the creek that flows underneath Highway 26 into Gulf Creek. You know, it's No Name Creek, but that's where all the water goes, and that's where we constantly have lakes in front of Jerry's house and in the backside of my other neighbor, Chris Ryce, also has a backyard that gets flooded constantly because he's also at the bottom of this whole problem. And so the question is, can the city of Beaverton help us out? Because we all are in the city of Beaverton and we all pay city of Beaverton taxes. But we have never really gotten much help up in this corner of Beaverton because, and then our taxes are all going up because there's a bunch of houses going in. I'm sorry, I'm gonna start taking off. There's a bunch of houses going in, they're all selling for $1 million a piece, and they are selling like hotcakes. And so therefore, our tax base is gonna greatly increase, and we should have a bigger say in capital improvement. And we would like to see that particular situation for now straightened out, but we, going down the road, we would like to see our open ditches up and down the long side of Canyon Lane and have that whole situation where there are no places for pedestrians to walk. That's all we want for now. And if we've been going through this over and over, and but we got to make sure that our concerns are addressed. And therefore, I got your address, and we are going to, submit another capital improvement request for one or more projects. We deserve more than one. We deserve at least one. Okay, I'm done. Thanks.
I have a question about the private versus the public road. So I guess, how does a private road become a public road, number one? And are there other private roads in the West Slope area? It seems bizarre to me that this situation actually exists.
There are this is Mark Boguslawski speaking here, one of the civil engineers here on staff.
Yeah.
And I know of, at least within the city of Beaverton, I know of no other substantial private roads. There are sometimes like a minor cul-de-sac that has a couple houses on it, kind of arrangement. But for the most part, the number of private roads that I'm currently aware of inside the city of Beaverton are like, I can count on, I guess, maybe one hand and a couple fingers. 5 of them are in Murray Hill area, and 2 of them are cul-de-sac, and 2 of them are loop streets. And then the rest of them.
So how did this happen, and how could it become a public road?
How 75th, how it became what it is today, I am not sure. It's been that way for quite a long time, well before that area was annexed to the city of Beaverton. There is currently not public right of way. There is, in terms of easements in there, there is an easement that was obtained by the previous jurisdiction that served sewer in that area, Clean Water Services, used to be the Unified Sewage Agency. There's an easement for sewage in a road. There is an easement for telecommunications in a road, and there's an easement for aerial PGE, and there's an easement for Northwest Natural. There is no a public right-of-way easement that I'm aware of that we could find so far.
You are exactly correct. That is the way 75th Avenue is set up, just as a small example of how this process or what exists right now.
Yeah.
75th Avenue is only a 1-lane road, and whoever all the residents voted a long time ago to access to the city of Beaverton instead of being in the city of Portland. So that's why all their taxes are paid to the city of Beaverton. Unfortunately, as you've spoken, It used to be a one-lane dirt road, then it got paved over by the city by accident. And I love telling this story, but I'm not going to do it right now. Yeah, but everybody's house up and down our whole street, I own the street in front of my house. And the people that live across the street from me have easement. When they bought the house, they knew it. And that's the way it goes, all the way up and down this street. And I don't think that's the only area that is applicable, but I'm just giving you what's going on in my street specifically, as far as the relationship between City of Beaverton and private drives. It is rather complicated.
So
I'm
what would
sorry.
it take for it to become public, Carl?
Excuse me?
So what it would take would all the residents have to provide easements to the city?
Yeah, I
Or
could,
become a
literally,
public
yeah,
road?
I could put up a fence right in the middle of 75th, so no one could get through it if I so decided, but everyone's got easement. They all come through, they all, they can walk, they can bike. They just can't park, let's put it that way. Because I kick them out, they try to park. It's just a tough situation. And so the whole thing with the city of Beaverton doing something with our drains and sidewalks needs to be examined, because they're going to get money from the city. I mean, excuse me, from the federal government. All that money is going to come rolling in, which is cool. But state's going to determine where it goes. And of course, Portland will get a bunch and Beaverton will get a bunch. And so why not improve Canyon Lane and make it
Well,
a
I have
place where people can actually walk?
I have a question. It sounds like from what the gentleman from Public Works was saying is that not all the residents along there are even interested in providing easements. So is there any backstory there? Is there any information about why they were unhappy or unwilling to participate in this project?
Well, only half of the residents own that street, to be specific. The other half don't. They all get easements, that's it.
Well, can the Public Works Department talk about what it would take to make this, to convert this into a public street? What would be the steps?
They'd have to expand it and actually grab easement like they need to do on Canyon Lane. That's the problem. That's why we haven't been able to get the ditches covered, and why people's what do you call them? All the banks and everything on each side need to go away in order to expand the access for a sidewalk to exist. Everyone built their easement or their, I'm sorry.
Would you mind if the Public Works folks could also provide their input on this?
Well, each situation is unique, and I can actually go and probably share a story with what we had this discussion similar with 5 private streets in the Murray Hill area and what was decided for that. And I'm using that as a comparison, not saying that that's going to apply here in the West Slope area, but that's what we gave the answer over there. And there's usually an element of consistency. One of the things that is required for a public street is that to be built to public, you have to have a certain minimum width, and it has to have, and it has to be in substantial conformance in some form or fashion with the city street standards, which is typically a sidewalk and curb and gutter. And what we told the people in Murray Hill is that they could form a local improvement district, and then that would be where everyone gets taxed a certain amount. And then well, it's like like a loan, if you would. We would design it and build a curb and gutter, and in this case, in the Murray Hillside project, since there wasn't enough right of way, we would have sidewalk on just one side of the street. The streets were low enough volume that a sidewalk on one side of the street was going to be plenty adequate for the transportation. And so that's what we told them. And we roughly calculated out what the local improvement cost would be. And at least for these particular streets, I believe it came in the nature of, there would be an assessment of around $30,000 per resident that they could pay over 20 years in order to make it a public street. And then what would happen is then the city would then take over the full maintenance of that street. And the reason they were considering it is they had a huge bill because they had their private street built with very thin AC and it was all falling apart and they needed to do major structural repair. And they were all looking at, in terms of their homeowner association who actually owned the street, they were all looking at like a $10,000 a person expense to go back and do the repair. So they thought that maybe they could go back and get it off, instead of having a $10,000 expense every 15 years, maybe they can get it a one and done type of arrangement. But we needed to have a certain amount of buy-in, if you would, of the percentage of the population to support the local improvement district. How to form a local improvement district is completely outlined in Chapter 3 of our city code. And there's a process, as you can imagine, with all kinds of government stuff, there's always a process. And they did not get while we got plenty of letters of support, we didn't get anywhere near the 50% level that was going to be necessary for that. Now, what could be done with 75th? What could be done with, you mentioned Canyon Lane. Personally, I'm a Beaverton resident. I think it'd be very clever, personally, that there was a sidewalk in Canyon Lane, as a Beaverton resident speaking. And so I think you should actually put in a capital improvement request, because you've already mentioned it. I think it's a good idea you submit one for Canyon Lane, because that serves a pretty good population. And so, so there. Now that would be handled by the transportation group primarily, because roadways are transported. I'm here representing the storm and sanitary sewer utility. And Eduardo and I are not, we do not get paid with taxpayer dollars. We get paid, if you see your water bill, there's a fee in there that says surface water management, SWM, and then there's a small, and we get paid, and a small part of the sanitary sewer fee comes to us. The vast majority of the sanitary sewer fee goes to fund those monumental monuments of stainless steel and concrete called the sewage treatment plants, which are terribly expensive to run. So yeah, we are, Eduardo and I are utility workers. We don't get paid with taxes.
Hey, the word I couldn't remember was retaining wall. We have those all the way down Canyon Lane, and that's why it is a very hard project to pull off, because people have built retaining walls over the years, and it makes it almost impossible to, put in a sidewalk. You have to, we would literally have, we'd have to go back and forth across Canyon Lane in order to make everything work, so somebody can get from the school, the Portland Public School, to the bus stop on Canyon Road. And so that would be the problem with the city to help us deal with. We'd have to get people to relinquish their property in order to move their retaining walls. And that's the bitch. But covering the existing open ditches, on the other hand, is not that big a problem for the city. And I think they have enough money to take care of that part in order to start this project and get some sort of sidewalks going. I
Hey,
know
Carl,
that's not your gig. Yeah, I'm sorry. I'll get, you know, we'll talk to another person from the city if they are more the better person to talk to.
Well,
Not, you're doing a
Hey,
great job,
Carl.
Roy, and I really appreciate your time.
hey, Carl, can we say a couple of words about this 75th Avenue drainage project while we're, still on the topic?
And a reminder,
Can you guys hear me?
that Joe has his hand raised.
Yeah. Joe, do you have any question?
It's Joe Hughes, no word.
Oh, Joe Hughes.
You're muted.
I'm unmuted. Am I unmuted now?
Yes.
Am I unmuted now?
Yes.
Okay, so I just wanted to clarify on 75th. Everyone on the west side of 75th, their property extends across the lane to the east side of it, if you will. So the people on the east side have easements to use 75th from all the people on the west side. And it's the lane was established, I don't know, 70, 80 years ago. And then Carl alluded to this. It was kind of interesting. We voted to be annexed into the city of Beaverton. We had this funky lane. We had like one of the proposals here I saw earlier was to put some pervious surface gravel at the low point to let the water soak in. Well, that's the way it always was. It was a mess. I put together the neighbors, because I'm a contractor, to dig that all out and compact in some decent rock. And then a couple years later, we were annexed, or we voted to be annexed. And I've always laughed about it. And I think we all have, because City of Beaverton, I think, came out and go, well, what do we annex? Oh, look at this. Here's a street with no pavement. We came home one day, they'd paved our street. That's but in terms of the easement,
Christmas.
what's that?
It was right before Christmas.
Yeah. Merry Christmas, 75th Avenue. And we all felt pretty cool, because Beaverton must love us, but they don't know that they don't own this street. I'm not sure how to address the water problem, which is the purpose of this. It's incomprehensible to me that it's $1 million+ issue. And I'm sure that the neighbors are not going to form an organization to kick in $30,000 or $100,000 a piece or whatever to drain a couple of backyards. So I don't know where to go with this. I clearly see that it's not necessarily the city of Beaverton's problem, and but it's a neighborhood problem. I'm fortunate in that the water runs off before it gets to my house, and so I just want to chip in so you city people understand the relationship on the street. That the west side owns this. Everybody on the west side owns the street. Everybody on the east side has an easement to use the street, and we don't fight about that. We're all neighbors. It's a good neighborhood.
Damn right.
I'm good for now.
okay, yeah, thank you. That's what the tax maps and what indicated, but we did not dive in deep enough to do the right-of-way research to make, get a good finding on that. But thank you for confirming what we were suspecting. And now our education is more solid.
Say, Carl, can I have my hand up. Can I mention something before we get off of this topic?
Sure.
Yeah, we're here.
Go ahead.
Okay. I know you were talking about the project costing 1.5 million, but then you mentioned a couple other alternates, one in particular being this Kingman trench drain. I'd just like to point out that, even though this is a private street, in 2005, the city paved the street and created essentially a dam. And in doing so, did not follow their own engineering guidance, which indicates that when one changes the topography in an area, you are supposed to assess the potential for flooding due to those modifications in the ground line. So I would still be interested in hearing, some agreement on behalf of the city to try to rectify this problem that they caused initially. And so, if the Kingman trench drain is an option, it's quite a bit cheaper. I still think the city, due to what transpired, has a responsibility to fix the problem and chip in the money to do so.
Am I still on here? This is Joe Hughes.
Yeah, we can still hear you.
I've got insight into that because I was here long before it was paved, and Jerry's property didn't have water problems because the low point of the road is more or less in the front of his house, and it was gravel and funky and secondary street, and it just didn't happen. When it did get paved, the height of the road is higher than it used to be. A simple solution might be to look into scrape off the asphalt, take the road bed down a few inches, let it sheet drain across the street. It comes down my driveway and into Mike and Cheryl's backyard and into the headwaters of the what you really can't call a creek. It's like a little dribble of water. I think there's certainly solutions that aren't $1 million solutions or multi-million-dollar solutions. I don't think we need sidewalks on our street. It's not big enough.
Hey, no. We're talking sidewalks only on Canyon Lane, not on 75th.
Okay, Carl, that's cool. I'm with you, Carl. So rather than turning it into a engineering science project, it might be able to be solved with just some on-site pragmatism and some changes in grade and things like that. And Jerry, we haven't talked about this, but you're from the engineering world. You may agree. I don't know.
Well, water always wants to go downhill, and right now there's no way for it to do so. So
Exactly.
that's our problem.
I mean,
Yeah, I feel horrible for Jerry. I'm his next door neighbor, and I witness this every time that it rains. And this lake outside, this gentleman just redid his whole basement. A beautiful, I'm sorry, the Ramsdens, I hope this is okay. Are you all right with this?
That's fine.
And this thing happens every time, and it goes right back into their basements, ruining the whole project. And our basement too, but I rent here, so I can't really do anything about the flooding of our basement. But it seems to get worse every season, and I hear that the city of Beaverton accidentally paved this road. I mean, couldn't the city of Beaverton accidentally help Jerry save his house?
Yes, I'm the one that shared that story. It is true.
it is true.
They were supposed to pave 78, not 75th.
I mean, right now, my garage is permanently sandbagged and has to stay that way until this problem gets solved, because every time it rains over, a half inch or rains anything at all, when the ground's saturated, that yard fills up. So it happens multiple times every year.
And we've already spent $40,000 putting in French drains all the way around our house. We've replaced our basement because it got flooded up to what, 2 feet?
Yeah, 2.5 feet.
I
So
mean,
we had to gut our finished
We've
basement.
already spent so much money and we have nowhere else for the water to go. There's just nowhere for it to go.
Okay,
This is Miles from the city of Beaverton.
yeah.
So that paving mistake that happened years ago, if I would make a suggestion is that you contact your elected officials, your city council members, and your new mayor as well, because they weren't here for that project, but they do want to hear from the residents that may have issues.
So,
City staff can only do so much, but the elected officials are the ones that set policy and can make decisions.
This has been an
Okay.
ongoing problem for so many years. It's like we just want to expedite and get the problem solved.
Yeah, well, thank you for that. We will write a letter to the mayor, actually. I
I
appreciate
think Beaverton should look at what you guys should look at. I mean, changing the grade of the road so the water runs past Jerry's house and down into the ravine behind the other houses and into the headwaters of the creek. That's fine.
the Joe Hughes Creek.
But that Hughes Creek, yeah, I think it's Carl's Creek. So, but the reality is the water is coming from up above in an area that's
Yes,
hasn't been managed or developed. It's an old nursery. They were going to build houses up there. I think they made it into a park, didn't they? And it's not Jerry's water. It's not 75th Avenue's water. It's water that rushes into our low point. And we need some civic help on this deal because we can't take backhoes up on someone else's property and fix it. So I think it needs, I don't know, some pragmatic help. $1.5 million. I'm in the construction business. I'm a fairly savvy contractor. I own Joseph Hughes Construction. You might know of me. That's $1.5 million solution for this, I think, is ridiculous.
Joe, I think we're in agreement of more things than you actually realize here.
Okay.
Mark Bogoslawski speaking here. We are obligated to, when we form up a public and take it over for public ownership, we have to build it to public works standards. And that's the building of the public works standards is what yields up to the cost.
yes.
What you suggested, your pragmatic solution, is a combination of what those other two lower cost solutions that we presented in the PowerPoint presentation. And so we are already in agreement. In fact, we've already wrote it down and made it a part of the presentation. Right. And you are correct that it is relatively economical to perhaps allow the water to move from one side of the road to the other side of the road on down your driveway, across the downers driveway, into along the property line between you and the downers and into the creek. You are absolutely positively correct. And that is probably, and that's why we recommended it as the low cost solution. It's just that it's very difficult for us to use public monies to spend on, at least we at low level staff, to go ahead and authorize to spend public money on private property on such a nature. Now, and you talk about the oversight of the paving. I agree there was, but there's state law associated with how long you had to file a claim. And if you don't file a claim within a certain claim date as stipulated by state law, you lose. We as state staff are confined to comply with the state laws. Right. And so I can't authorize something that's beyond spending public money. Now, our public representatives can do something that's that nature. I can't.
Who would ever complain about getting a dirt road filled with potholes paved over? I mean, we didn't even have the opportunity to examine the property, what was going on, the work that was going on that was performed by the city of Beaverton. They showed up with their, they quote unquote, I said, hey, what are you guys doing? And they said, oh, we're trying out this new machine and we're going to try it out on your street. So therefore, no one got a chance to review any kind of plan or what was going on.
Yeah, that fits with the story I've heard.
So I would think that it's interesting after
Oh, you're on mute.
all of these years that this is now coming up. I assume that after the street was paved, this is probably when the problem became apparent. And, you know, during Rob Drake's time, who was, you know, very, very closely associated with the NAC. And, you know, I think most of us felt we could just call him up and say, hey, Rob, there's an issue here. Could probably do that with Denny. I don't know Lacey at all. But it seems to me that making an appeal directly to the council and to the current mayor saying, hey, this is your fault, you know, kind of a mea culpa and help us out here. And which the you know, the public works people can't do that, but that's what the mayor and the council exists for. So I think that would be the most productive path to take. And maybe make an appointment with the mayor and the neighbors that are directly impacted, go down and talk and see what can be done.
I think that's a good suggestion. I think that's a real good suggestion. And Jerry, I mean, I've lived here for 25 years, but when the street was paved, which was what, 20 years ago or so, I didn't know you, Jerry. I didn't know your property flooded, but was it flooding right after it was paved, or I don't know I don't know how this all progressed. I know that you've got terrible problems now, and I'm willing to help in any way I can because you're a friend and a neighbor.
Well,
But,
yeah, I think what happened was that the city paved the street, and then that started kind of this low-level ponding situation. And the soils we have here, if you're familiar with it, they're extremely impermeable. And so once that street was basically turned into a dam, all this stormwater ponds and all those fines percolate in and bind up what little percolation there is. And once that went on for years and years, now we're at the point where there's almost no percolation. When the water gets ponded in that yard, it takes like 2 weeks for the water to go down to the point where we're not just constantly having to pull it out of our basement, throw it back in the yard and have it come back into our basement. The sumps are just running constantly for 2 weeks. And I think the reason that it took so long for the problem to manifest itself is because over time, that dam has essentially caused all those fines to start to plug up what little percolation there was initially. Whereas before the dam was there, all those fines would just transmit down the creek with the flow of the water. So I think that's what's going on. You know, I may not be able to prove it, but I think that kind of explains why it took so long for the problem to manifest itself the way it did. But certainly now, multiple times a year, we have this problem. Whereas over the first like 10 years afterwards, you know, we never had this kind of problem.
Well, it was 10 years and 3 months.
Yeah,
Yeah, it was 10
we
years.
filed a report, and of course the cutoff was 10 years.
Right. So it seems to me that the first step again would be, you know, invite these gentlemen to sit down with you guys and the mayor and see if you could find a way forward. Either that or you know, sell the street back, give the street back, give the street to the city, so it becomes a public way.
that would cost you so much money because you had to make it to city standards with all these sidewalks and drainage and stuff. This old-fashioned street that was cheap to build, we just have a drainage problem, you know. Infrastructure, so it's so expensive these days because of all the rules. The street has to look like this and blah blah blah. And I don't want to get on my bully pulpit like likes to do, so I'll stop right there. Right,
Well,
Carl?
I just have one follow-up question. So I was wondering if we do have this meeting with the city mayor, council folks, if Mark Bogalowski, if you'd be willing to join, because you have like the history of kind of everything the city's been doing all the way back to its initial plans to try to put this storm drain system in.
If I'm directed to do so by my supervisor, the city engineer, the answer is, of course I'll do that.
Okay.
I work for the city manager and the city engineer. And when the city engineer tells me to jump, I say, how high, sir?
And who is that?
And that's good. Bring up the slide there for his, we're going to bring up Jeff's contact information. If we could share a slide here.
It's a sharing.
It's just sharing right there.
Jerry,
Oh, yes.
I'm Miles with the city again. I want to give you my city phone number. If you call and leave a message with your email on it, I'll get back to you
Okay.
with
That'd be
information and help you sit down with at least the mayor.
Okay.
Great.
I'd like
And
to-
you can
we'd
start
like to-
there.
If we would, we'd love to have you, coordinate directly with my supervisor, if we're going to request that anyways.
Okay.
Can you bring up the slide?
It is.
Up right there. And
Yeah.
it says Jeff Hunsacker, he's a city engineer. There's his phone number, 503-350-3658. And I gave him a heads up that he would probably be being contacted here. And ideally, we like to solve a lot of this at the the lowest level possible. Now, admittedly, you are completely welcome to have to approach your city councilor and representatives on any topic whatsoever. Every council meeting has an open discussion session. So
I think we beat this around pretty good, and we've had some good communication. And you guys don't want to be here all night, but I would like to share some neighborhood lore with you that has nothing to do with this topic.
okay, love to hear
It's
it.
a fun story. Okay, so back when Highway 26 was built, when dinosaurs roamed the earth, 75th had grade level crossing of the new highway. And it took decades to eliminate grade level access and exit from Highway 26. 78th, I mean, all these roads, I mean, they built the freeway and then they didn't have money for overpasses and blah, blah, blah. So when I bought my house in 75, I was fortunate a couple years later I got to know the neighbor, and her name was Peck, and I ended up buying her house when she passed away, which is on the corner of 75th and Canyon Lane. It's 7505 Canyon Lane. And she was a crusty, hard-bitten old German immigrant, and which there's nothing wrong with that. But people would still come off of Highway 26 and use 75th as a shortcut to get into, West Slope and Raleigh Hills and stuff. And she was so irritated at this traffic that every once in a while she'd go out with her shotgun in her like house dress and stand there with her shotgun and tell people to get off her damn road. And this is a true story. And at one point, the guy got out of his car and he put his arms around her and he picked her up and moved over to the side of the road and he cracked her rib. He was forever mad about that, but her name was Peck, and she was great. So 75th has a long legacy of rebellion.
Yeah.
And
Oh, fantastic.
everyone should know that. Anyway, I want to thank you all for your time.
So you can call it Peck Lake. Carl's given up.
Yeah.
We
Yes,
lost
I-
Carl. So I think we'll move on in the agenda.
Okay.
Yeah, what was next, Mike?
Sign off. Thank you, guys. We'll be in touch. Bye.
I'm pulling it up right now. Just give me 1 second.
Miles, do you want to give your city report? I can do my traffic calming thing after that.
Okay. I'll give a quick report from the city. For April news, we have what's happening on 5th Street. So Mayor Beatty held a an overview and listening session with community members about 3 potential developments that are happening all on Fifth Street, kind of within a couple blocks of each other. The refurbishing the city park fountain, the possibility of affordable senior housing at the community center site, which is directly across the street from the library, and the potential sale of the book corner parcel to a developer for housing. And there is a video of the event online at beavertonoregon.gov 5th Street projects. It goes over what each project entails. These projects are in support of Beaverton's community-driven vision for a more dynamic city center with better access to equitable services. We're still in the midst of our city manager recruitment. They would be the city's administrative lead and will report to city council on the operation of services and programs. We continue to work with our interim city manager, Kurt Wilson, and they had a survey that was open to the public. It's since closed, but you can learn more at beavertonoregon.gov/city manager. And I believe the desire of the council is to have a city manager hired and starting this summer. Kind of a, not permanent, but long-term city council or city manager. And then finally, our severe weather shelter has been extended through May, through the end of May, to support the area's adults experiencing homelessness and in response to COVID. Just Compassion of East Washington County operates the shelter for us using funding provided by Washington County. The shelter is the only site in the county to maintain operations in a group setting with staff and resources available to enrolled participants. They serve nearly 160 adults age 18 and over countywide. This is its 5th season. It's continuous 24-hour, 7-day operation per week, and we have 30 adults enrolled currently. Shelter guests are provided with meals, showers, access to resources, and referral to social services. The shelter is not seeking volunteers or donations at this time, but if you're interested in helping, you can check the website for future needs. And Terry mentioned it earlier, but I'll just mention it real quickly. Our Spring Voters Forum for City Council Position 1 and Tualatin Hills Park and Recreation District Directors for the May 18th special election is happening April 29th at 6:30 p.m. You can view it live online at beavertonoregon.gov/votersforum or on TVC TV channels 30 for English and 28 for Spanish. And if you have a question for the candidates, you can email those in ahead of time. That's where, Terry mentioned this earlier, but that's where the committee gets all the questions that they ask the candidates is from submission by residents. And you can email those to me, to neighbormail@beavertonoregon.gov as well. And we'll get those added to the queue. And those are all the updates I have.
Miles, did everyone get the postcard?
I believe it was a citywide postcard.
Citywide.
Yeah.
Okay, just want to verify that. Thank you.
And I'll just mention the day before Beaverton School District is having a voters forum of their own for their Beaverton School Board. I'm not sure. I think most of the West Slope is in Portland's PPS's school district, but there may be pockets that are in Beaverton.
My
School
street's
District.
in Beaverton.
Yeah.
85th Avenue West.
And that's on the Beaverton School District website.
Right. Carl is muted.
So Terry, I guess, go ahead.
Okay, I'll go ahead. Thank you. This is going to take a little bit of your time, but I from the Beaverton Committee for Community Involvement, BCCI, we have been asked by a couple of NACs to conduct an assessment and we want to provide feedback on the traffic calming program. So I think folks who have been tuned into the NAC for a decade or more are probably familiar with the traffic calming program, because we've actually had a couple of projects that have been processed through that program. One of them is the Canyon Lane West Slope Drive traffic calming through those speed bumps. That was a project that was reviewed and approved in 1999. And also the Laurelwood, Birchwood, and 87th Avenue, that's our connection to the city of Beaverton. That was another traffic calming project that was approved in May of 2002. So we have had some, and then there was another project that was what I call the lower end of Canyon Lane, and that was between Valley View and 87th. And that was proposed probably 4 or 5 years ago, and that project failed. So so that's just an example of the traffic calming program and its impacts on local neighborhoods in West Slope as an example. But let me talk about kind of the proposal before us today. First of all, the city of Beaverton is committed to maintaining and improving livability and safety of residential neighborhoods. And the traffic calming program is intended to improve compliance with posted speed limits. It's not intended to require drivers to travel significantly below the speed limit. And most vehicles should be able to travel through traffic calming projects at the posted speed limit. And for those not familiar with the program, it is a very thorough and detailed process. There's a detailed process for requesting and approving the design of traffic calming methods. And just briefly, those involve working with the traffic engineering department of the city and working with the traffic engineer to come up with a project proposal, and for the neighborhood to select the preferred traffic calming proposal. And then for that traffic calming proposal to go before the Traffic Commission, which is another city oriented commission, which is staffed by volunteer citizens who review traffic calming projects and vote to approve them and fund them eventually for ultimate construction. So this is the issue that 2 NACs have specifically brought to the BCCI. And they are the Highland NAC and the Central Beaverton NAC. And they are requesting that we propose to the Traffic Commission changes to the current way that ballots are counted in whether a project should be supported through the ballot. And let me give a little bit of an example. For example, when there is a project proposed, all of the properties that are directly facing that project street get a vote. And the 67% of those properties have to vote yes to have this. So it's a 2/3 majority for approval of a project. The issue is that the issue that is before us is that when people do not return a ballot, it counts as a no vote. So here's an example. Let's just just to make the math even, let's talk about 100 homes on an affected street, which are sent a ballot requesting that they either approve or disapprove of the installation of a traffic calming measure on their street. If 66 of those 100 homes respond and they all approve the traffic calming measure, the vote fails because then you need 67%. And it could have failed because either 34 homeowners did not vote or they voted no. So but the non-vote counts as a no. And so that has transpired multiple times within the Highland and the Central Beaverton NACs. When these projects are otherwise, they believe they receive a majority of the yes votes, but they fail to receive enough ballots to counteract the yes votes. Let me give an example of that.
Terry, I have a question just as it applied to Canyon Lane.
Yes.
So did all the residents, like at West Slope Terrace, that lived in all the apartments there, were each one of them considered to be a potential vote? Or was it just the property owners?
If you have a condominium, they were all considered to be owners. But it did include some of the apartments there. And the city traffic engineer, I don't have the exact details, but they did include a couple of the residents of the apartment building, but not the entire apartment building. So there's like a 100-foot set, from the road kind of a dimension that they used for apartment buildings. But that project failed for lack of returned ballots,
Right.
not for a lack of approved ballots. So those NACs came to BCCI and asked us to talk to our neighborhoods about what we believe about traffic calming, and are we familiar with traffic calming? And again, I think a number of us are. What we have done is we have actually drafted a letter, and if there's a motion for us to sign this letter, it effectively asks the Traffic Commission to reconsider this policy about the way they count ballots when there's a proposed traffic calming project. And so I guess I'll ask the question.
So what is the proposal?
The proposal, I can just kind of, I have the letter in front of me. It basically says that we, the undersigned, would like to request a thorough rewrite and review of the Traffic Commission's traffic calming policy concerning development, consent, review, and the voting process. Of most concern is the fact that a lack of a vote is a no vote, and it does not allow the rest of the citizens to move forward with improvements. The 67% threshold has been a hurdle for a variety of reasons, none of which are under the citizens or city's control. And as Beaverton's population changes, people age, move away, and the reasons for not being responsive to the city mail varies widely, and we need a process which can allow us to move forward for whatever reason some people do not vote or get involved with the city. And I think, as you can tell, that's the frustration, is that lack of involvement ends up being a no vote, whereas otherwise the project may have been supported by a number of the people who have a real interest in making sure that the project, that their streets are safe and that traffic doesn't speed through their streets. So basically they're just asking for a look at the policy. And that would be the, if we're interested in supporting this, I guess I would ask for a motion in that, to that.
I would so move to support.
Well,
this
but thank you, Joe. But maybe we want to have a discussion first. Is there anybody?
You make the motion and then you have the discussion.
Okay, so all right, go ahead, make your motion.
Okay, so I would make a motion that we support this request of the city to look at the way that the balloting occurs for traffic calming projects.
Okay, is there a second? Is that a Ken Slack second?
Yeah, it's a Ken Slack second.
All right,
Carl, we still can't hear you.
you're
No,
muted, Carl.
Now you're unmuted, but you're not getting through. Yeah, we had an issue where someone came through and took out a truck and a trailer and almost a couple of the neighbors up in the corner of West Slope Drive and Canyon Lane, I think last week. And so yeah, it's definitely an issue, and you know, unless someone actually goes door to door to you know, support people putting their votes in, we don't have a way to you know, essentially just if you don't care, then you just essentially have a no vote.
Yeah, so I guess Carl is going to try to type in. He's still speaking, but we can't hear him. So I see a thumb. Yeah, and I know I forgot the gentleman's name who was passionate about the Canyon Lane one, the lower end of Canyon Lane, but I know he was extremely frustrated in that he did a lot of the footwork to try to get the project to a point where it would be ready for the vote, and then he was very frustrated that.
Yeah, well, that was Jabra from the city, Jabra Casho.
Well, I'm thinking of the individual he was living in those condominiums.
I know one of the ladies that was very passionate has since passed away as well. So
yeah, so I think that frustration has been felt in other neighborhoods, and that's why they're asking for this review. Carl, have you figured out your microphone yet? Oh, he's going to try a phone. Is anybody else familiar with traffic calming and want to have a contribute your thoughts?
Well, here's a thought from Dieter's end. I just witnessed again the impossibility to keep people from running red lights down on Road and 87th. That's a very dangerous intersection, and I wonder if there is any way to inquire with the city, because it's probably more than a traffic calming measure, to monitor and arm this intersection with you know, a camera, because you know, there's always the crashes that happen there, and we probably have seen them. They are high-speed crashes because people are come barreling down the hillside on Canyon, and they want to still make that yellow light and end up running a red light. And if you have cross traffic, like for instance the mail trucks coming in, I've seen one of these speeders T-boning a mail truck right on that intersection. If there is a way to do this, is that a part of that traffic calming regimen, or is that a different?
No, that would be different from what we've had the traffic sergeant come to many meetings. You know, and they put the photo truck and they put the motors out on. It's on both ends for the red light running. And I don't think there's enough cops in the world.
Yeah, not a truck, a permanent camera, like what they have in many places in Portland.
That's, so I'm sorry, Dieter, did you say that was at Canyon Road and 87th? Is that
Yeah,
what you
that
specifically-
intersection by the gas station there.
Okay, yeah, so that would be an ODOT
Okay.
function, but what I did learn, you know, and I listened to a couple of presentations from Jabra, who is again the traffic engineer, regarding traffic calming. And law enforcement is the first method that they always use in order to enforce speeds. And of course, red light running is another one. I know to get that red light camera, that's really that would be a heavy lift, but that's not to say that it's not worth asking the question. But that could be an ODOT question that we could pursue maybe in a future meeting. They come to our NACs periodically.
Yeah, fair enough. I was just curious if, you know, is there any overlap or not? But it should be in the interest of the neighborhood, because clearly, you know, we have residents that and children, you know, you got to cross Canyon Road to get to the bus and whatnot. So there's
Absolutely
ample reason to calm that down.
Yeah. Todd, you had your hand up.
Yeah, I support a camera, you know, at the bottom of the hill, since, you know, that whole long hill from the freeway all the way down there. It's just so easy for so many people, even especially the people that use it all the time, to just forget. But a camera could calm that down. I realize we're supposed to bring that up with ODOT, but I like that much better than having all these little side streets turn from 25-mile-an-hour zones into, like, I have to go 15 to 20 miles when I'm driving on a neighborhood street. When it's posted 25, well, the speed bumps don't let you go that fast.
So there is a traffic calming page on the City of Beaverton website, and there's a traffic calming form that you can fill out. You know, and for everyone that feels that traffic calming needs to occur wherever in the City of Beaverton, you have access to that form. And if you know, if there's a blizzard of these coming up, you know, eventually at some point, I'm assuming that there's a process of them, you know, taking those, getting back to you and initiating something based on that. But it's been an ongoing issue. Clearly we've got the speed bumps on between the folks bringing their kids to West Sylvan. So yeah, I mean, it's an ongoing thing, but yeah, I think cameras would be great at either end of. We actually even we did get a no left turn sign put up down at the bottom of Canyon Lane, where it goes into Canyon Road. That was an advantage. But yeah, there's you don't pull out when the light turns green. You just don't do that. You wait and look.
Yeah, good point. Well, any other thoughts before we, I guess, take a vote on the motion?
Yes, how many board members do we have?
Who the fuck that guy is?
Like maybe Carl's audio is coming back.
He's back.
Yeah, Carl, you're muted now. You're unmuted.
Yep. Hold on, I'm gonna get the video. Hold on a sec. There you go.
There you go.
Yes. Gotta let the ladies drive.
How many board members do we need for a vote?
We have a quorum.
Hey,
Chris is there.
Terry. Terry, you had a lot to say earlier. What was that about? Because I could not respond.
Well, we have a motion on the floor, and we discussed the motion, which was in support of you signing a letter that would go to the Beaverton Traffic Commission and encouraging them to rethink and re-examine the traffic calming program with respect to the way votes are counted.
No more, no way.
Well, I think we'll vote on it.
No more traffic bumps. We don't need them down that steep street. We don't need them. It's stupid.
Well, that's not the question. That's not the motion before us. The motion is,
No, but that's my answer.
I call for the question.
okay. So Carl, can we vote on the motion? You want to,
Which motion again? Because you need me for, yeah, you need me for, to get the 5, the quorum.
okay. Well, Joe made a motion and Kent seconded a motion to support you signing a letter on behalf of our NAC, encouraging the Traffic Commission to review the traffic calming program and the way votes are counted specifically within the traffic calming program. So that's the motion on the floor.
Hey, can I speak now? Right, I'm speaking. Yay! The reason that failed before was because all the people that live at the apartment complex at the bottom of the hill get a chance to vote because they're within the primary range, I guess. I forget how Jabra put it, but none of them voted yes. They could care less about those speed bumps. And you know what? They don't belong there anyway. Why are we even bringing this up again? I don't understand.
Carl, you don't realize that I'm talking about this in behalf of a couple of other NACs. This is, every NAC is going to be talking about this in their April meeting.
Flat lands.
Could we take a vote?
Yeah, sure, good.
Okay. All those in favor of the motion, please indicate by raising your hand. 1, 2,
No, those aren't. No, that's not a quorum.
4.
No, that's not a quorum. I see 2 out of 3.
You have to go through, I see Chris.
I don't see
Ken, are you voting?
I don't see Ken voting.
I'm voting.
We don't see your hand.
Yeah, and Dieter, he's in favor.
In favor.
1, 2, Joe. So what do we have? 5?
Yes.
5 ayes.
5 ayes. Okay, thank you. All those opposed?
So we're all gonna get new speed bumps?
Carl, those opposed to the motion? Carl, are you opposed to the motion?
I am opposed to the motion.
Okay. Is there any other opposition?
I don't want any more speed bumps.
And 1 opposed. So the motion passes.
Oh, good. Good for you.
Okay. So Carl,
Terry,
Todd has his hand up. Todd wants to talk.
Todd.
Go ahead, Todd.
If you haven't given Carl the paperwork and those 2 specific NACs that you brought up, who are the ones that asked you, maybe you could at least give him all that info, because I guess you're coordinating this. I guess you're the coordinator for all the NACs. Is that what I'm understanding correctly? You're basically the spokesperson for all the NACs on traffic calming for the whole city of Beaverton?
I am on a committee within the Beaverton Committee for Community Involvement, BCCI. And there was a subcommittee formed to look into this matter for traffic calming on behalf of the Highland NAC and the Central Beaverton NAC, because they are the ones that have had multiple projects fail for lack of the votes being returned to the city on a project. So they are very frustrated. So they came to BCCI and asked if we would look into this. We talked to the Traffic Commission. Traffic Commission said, go out to the neighborhoods and get their opinions on the traffic calming program. So now I am doing this for my NAC, but other BCCI members are doing it in their own individual NACs. And we're collecting this information during the months of April and May. And then we will report to the Traffic Commission in June. And if anyone is interested in pursuing their own opinion or offering their own opinion to the Traffic Commission on this matter or any matter, they meet the first Thursday of every month. And of course, they're doing Zoom meetings just like everybody else. And you can find their Zoom link by going to the city website for the Traffic Commission. But so I'm doing this sort of city on behalf of West Slope, but we're doing it citywide for all of the 11 NACs. And Carl, this doesn't necessarily mean you're going to get speed bumps on Canyon Lane. It's just so Highland can get speed bumps if they want to. Anyway, okay. Thank you very much for your.
Carl, I think your audio is dropped out. Are you getting? No, we can't hear you. Okay. Miles, anything else on the agenda?
Yeah, we just have visitor comment period. There's a couple of people I believe are candidates for office. They can each speak for 5 minutes and introduce themselves. Visitor comment is required by Oregon Public Meetings Law. And I know Jerome and Jeanette are both candidates. Is there anyone else who's a candidate for public office that's here to speak during visitor comments?
Fuhua is a candidate for Beaverton School District, and there's a message from Sarah Lynn Dougal, who's also waiting to come on.
Okay, so let's start with Jerome, and I will just go through the list.
Okay, so let me just introduce myself. My name is Jerome Spion, and I'm a candidate for Beaverton City Council because I want to serve the people of Beaverton with honor, integrity, and respect. I am the son of Filipino immigrants and was raised in Salem. I now live in the Vos neighborhood. My word is my bond. I am a veteran. I am a retired Army Lieutenant Colonel. I served for 28 years in war and peace around the world and throughout the United States. I am a licensed professional engineer with bachelor's and master's degrees in civil engineering. I am a former public works director, so I understand the importance of infrastructure to the city. I am an educator. I have master's and doctorate degrees in history and political science. I have taught courses at Portland State University and currently teach graduate courses at the Army War College on topics of national security and critical thinking. I am a community volunteer. I have served the people of Beaverton through the Human Rights Advisory Commission, Community Emergency Response Team, Beaverton Severe Weather Shelter, Social Services Funding Committee, Beaverton School District Bond Accountability Committee, Metro's Get Moving 2020 Transportation Infrastructure Investment Team, and Home Plate for homeless youth. I also serve with Engineers Without Borders, Community Engineering Corps, and the Education First Scholarship Foundation, which benefits traditionally underserved communities. I am grateful that my military pension and ongoing teaching allows me to continue my long tradition of public service and to self-fund my campaign. If elected, I will donate all after-tax counselor compensation to local nonprofits. I will serve our city with honor, integrity, and respect. I am a public servant. Thank you. I think I might have some time for a question or two.
How do I get?
Kent, did you have a question?
Me?
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know you could hear me. Oh, I know you. I can't see myself.
Oh, we can see you too.
Okay. You can see me?
Yep.
Then why the heck am I talking in a stupid chat? Oh, I can't see me, so I didn't think you guys could see me. Okay, so I had a question for Jerome. So you're talking about position 1 on the city council?
Yes, I am.
Is that the one that Lacey had?
It is.
All right. All right. And who is your opponent?
My main opponent is Ashley Hartmeyer Prigg.
Okay. And she's not here.
She is not.
Okay.
She lives in the West Slope neighborhood, by the way.
Oh, is that right?
Yes.
And why isn't she part of our NAC? All right. So what was my question I was going to ask you? Oh, shoot. I just forgot it. Oh, I can't remember the question, but no, you sound very good, Jerome.
Well, it's a pleasure to meet you too.
Normally I have a lot more to say. Right now I'm kind of quiet. Okay.
All right. Well, thank you.
Thank you for sharing.
All right, I don't see any other questions. Thanks, Jerome.
I'm going to type my email address in the chat if that's okay.
Yes, please.
Thank you.
Let's see. Jeanette, Sarah Lynn, and Dr. Jeanette, why don't you go ahead?
Fantastic. Thank you. I appreciate you guys allowing me to be here. My name is Jeanette Schade. I'm running for Beaverton School District Zone 1. And just in case everybody knows, West Slope is in the Zone 3 area, but all of, but all of Beaverton School District residents gets to vote for any candidate. And currently it is Zone 1, Zone 2, Zone 4, and Zone 5 that are up for election this cycle. I am an educator of 23 years. I have taught in 3 different states in many different types of schools, from normal public schools to charter schools and alternative schools. I worked with a very diverse array of students, both here in Oregon, California, and Houston, Texas area. I am also a mom of my last child, who is actually supposed to be in Beaverton schools, but due to moving here, the school that we ended up in finally had some issues servicing his 504 appropriately. So I took him out of the Beaverton schools 1 week before COVID hit, and we were planning on having him get his grades up and then putting him right back in the following year. Unfortunately, with COVID, schools did not open back up. And that is one reason why I'm running, because schools need to open back up 5 days a week. The science is there for the schools to open. The CDC and ODE, Oregon Department of Education, has adopted the CDC rule of 3 feet. Beaverton School District is not adopting that rule for whatever reason. And so they are following the 6-foot rule, and they're still doing hybrid education. And the high school students go back actually in 2 more days, which they will only have about a month and a half left of school at that point. The next reason why I'm running for Beaverton School District is to get the basics back into education: reading, writing, math, and also art, music, and also to build the career and technical education program to be much more robust than what it is now. The reasons for doing that is Beaverton School District is at an 86% graduation rate, which is very low compared to other areas. And for Latino students, it's at 77%. So my experience working in Houston, Texas schools is they had a very robust career and technical education program, which allowed students to get into something that they enjoy more, because not all students want to go to college. And so this provides an opportunity for students to build skills, which will retain them for graduation, as they are allowed to get a certificate upon graduation, showing that they have education in that area, which will also make them immediately employable upon graduation as well. Lastly, I also want to make sure we get politics out of school. There's too much political and social ideology going into the schools currently, and we need to get that out. Schools are meant to be educational grounds and not places to try and make our students into activists and things like that. They need the basic skills so that they can be thriving contributors to our society. And with that, if you have any questions, I welcome any questions.
Go ahead, Todd.
Who's your opponent, or are you running unopposed? Or is the person retiring and everyone's new running for this position? What's the field?
Yeah, so Susan Greenberg is my opponent, and I will let you research her. But I will tell you, she is complete opposite viewpoints than I have. She has come out supporting comprehensive sexuality education and critical race theory, and I am not in support of either one of those.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Jeanette? No? Okay. Thanks, Jeanette.
Yeah, thank you.
Sarah Lynn, why don't you go next?
Great, thank you so much. My name is Sarah Lynn Dougal, and I'm so glad to be here with you tonight. So I am a mother of 5 children, 2 of whom have graduated from Beaverton High School, one of whom is graduating this year during the middle of COVID from Mountainside High School, one who will be graduating in 2 years, and then I have one in elementary school still right now. So I'm going to be in the schools for a little while longer. I think it's good to have the voice of the parents in the community, on the school board, to give them that perspective. We know what's going on in the schools, on the fields, in the buses, and so that we can have a voice there. We've lived in Beaverton for 16 years, and so I've been active participant in the schools, whether it be through art literacy, which I've been done for the last 14 years, or the clothing closet, or many other capacities, including sports, football, and so forth. So we're really an active part of the community. I too, like Jeanette, am really concerned about the fact that we need to get back to school. The kids are really suffering. They really need to get back to school. Their education is suffering. Emotionally, they are suffering. We need to get them back to school. And like Jeanette said, there's no reason scientifically that we cannot be back in school. And in fact, if people don't want to go back to school, there's an option. It's called Flex. It's something people are already using. And so for those who are not comfortable going back, there are options available. So it does not exclude anybody. Our numbers, like Jeanette mentioned, are already a little bit low, and this is not going to help. We really need, not just for our numbers, it's really not about the numbers, it's about the kids. We want to get them to a place where they will be successful. And so we need to get back to schools. Also, I am interested as well in getting back to basics. We want to make sure that we have strong academics. I have talked to a lot of parents who are concerned about the decline in the rigor in the schools recently. And in fact, I just learned recently that Aloha High School is eliminating some of their AP classes. AP is advanced placement. And so some of the rigor is dropping even still. And that is disconcerting. I think that obviously not one shoe fits all. We're going to have some people who really need these rigorous courses and other people who need other classes. And we want to help people to succeed to their fullest, no matter what their gifts are, and help them to identify those gifts and be successful. So does anybody have any questions for me? I would love to answer any questions that you may have. I think Todd's going to ask who my running partner is, who I'm up against. Go ahead, Todd.
I was just going to ask, I know that all Beaverton city residents can vote on all the council positions, but which Beaverton district position is this, and what neighborhood does it actually represent?
So it's number 4, and what neighborhood? There's quite a few. You mean which neighborhood association?
With position 4, yeah.
I should know that, and I don't. We moved into this neighborhood about a year ago, even though I've been in Beaverton for 16 years, and I have no idea. My first NAC that I attended was earlier last month. I'm really impressed with what you guys do, but I am not familiar with the NAC.
And do you have to live in the neighborhood association area of the position, or are the positions just everybody as long as they're a Beaverton city resident?
That's a great question. It's not arbitrary. You must live in the zone that you are running for. Okay. Ironically, however, the schools that my children are in, or that I would be zoned for to go to, are not the schools necessarily that I represent. It's just the border.
Terry, do you know who would the the few people we have in the Beaverton School District, would they be voting for just one position, or are they voting for all of the positions?
No, I can answer that. So the candidate the candidate has to live in the zone. So like I live in zone 1 and Sarah Lynn lives in zone 4 and Fuhua lives in zone 2, but we are voted in at large. So every resident of the Beaverton School District boundaries can vote for any of the candidates.
Which is why we're here talking to you today. Yes, Todd?
So I just mean, what neighborhood do you live in then? And also if Jeanette, after you could answer what neighborhood she lives in, just so I know what neighborhoods you're representing as well as the whole school district.
Sure. I'm up at the corner of Kemmer and 175th, right by the roundabout on the way down to Mountainside High School.
So is that South Beaverton? I don't go down there much. Is that the
Yeah,
neighborhood?
yes, I would say it's southwest.
Highlands or something like that down there? Okay.
Well,
Oh, I mean, yeah, I know where you're saying. And then what part of the city do you live in?
Yeah, so Sarah Lynn is in the West Beaverton Sexton Mountain area. Zone 4 and zone 6 and zone 5 are West Beaverton Sexton Mountain neighbors southwest, and South Beaverton for zone 6. Zone 1 is Greenway, Denny, Whitford, Rayleigh West, and Vos, and a little bit of no, that's it there. Zone 2 is Central Beaverton and Five Oaks, Triple Creek. And so those are the NACs. And then of course they overlap. There's a lot of overlap in there as well. Does that answer your question, Todd?
thank you. Are there any other questions? Miles, I'll turn it back over to you.
Okay, and let's see, Dr. Zhu is, I'm sorry, I don't know how to pronounce your last name.
Fuhua. Last name Xu. So I think, can I share screen with you, because some question may be easy to answer using a map or something.
Yes, you have just a couple of minutes though. Are you able to, do you see the button? Great.
Yes. So my name is Fuhua Xu. I'm running for the Beaverton School District Board Member Zone 2. So because we already, Jeanette and Serene already got a question about the zones. So here is the map about the zone, 7 zones. So I'm in zone 2 in this area. And the zone 1 is in this area. Zone 4 is this area. So zone 2 mostly is the Busines area. So where our location, my location is belong to, actually if large will be say Busines, but it put to small community should be, it's called Deerfield community. So for the Beaverton School District, it's a really good district because I live in here for over 20 years. My 2 kids attend the school in here, and the range for Beaverton School District is number 9, which is in total 144 district in Oregon. It's number 9. It's really good district. However, if you take a close look for the Beaverton School District, you can see the rate for the graduate is 86%. It means still have about 40% students cannot graduate from high school. So there is a lot of things we can do to help them to get graduated, or we need to find out why they cannot graduate. So for myself, I live in here over 20 years. I'm father, have 2 children, and I'm a scientist, and which means I understand the critical thinking and unbiased the truth, to find unbiased truth. This is very, very important for scientists because, you know, if you only view one side, you cannot view other side. You may make some decision is wrong. That's why we need critical thinking and unbiased. So for the school, I believe all the education is very, very important for children because this is a foundation, a kind of foundation for their lives. And in the future, they will build this country. And I believe we live this country and love this country. And our kids, our next generation will still living here and love this country. So they have to learn some knowledge, and they also need to learn how to think, but not what to think. So for me, I just have some thing. I think if I become the member, most important is ask school open 5 days full time for the student as soon as possible. Of course, we have mentioned emphasis the safety and the security is most important for the student and the teachers, also the staff of the school, because the safety current medical situation for the COVID-19 is very, very huge problem for the school open. So we have to think how can monitor the student teachers in the school for their safety, also for the security, because you know there is a lot of attack Asian American people in the cities, some cities. So students from the Asian families, they worry about this, their safety, and the parents also worry about their children's safety in the school. So school district have to do something to give student safety evidence. Also, as district school board have to listen all the parents, also teachers and the students' voice, also from the voice from the community, which from different background, different cultures. And we need the schools and the community resources to support this school to get all the students can finish their study, finish their high school and get graduated. And for the student who can go to the college, we should have some program to support them. And also for the student cannot get in the college, the school should have some program for like a career learning to help them to find a job or career develop in the future lives. So I believe it is very important for the student to get all outstanding educations. So as a line sentence, I will say it is very important for the student, not only the STEAM, STEM, we also need to put art there. So I use STEAM to learning and critical thinking. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Are there any questions? Are there any other candidates? I don't see anyone. Terry, is there any other business that you're aware of?
I'll just want to do an update on the library situation. Okay. We've had some discussion about that. So the latest information from West Slope Community Library, they're estimating possibly in June that they'll be back in business. So Beaverton City Library, you can go in, they still have the curbside pickup. You can go in and make reservations and they'll bring the books out to you, or you can just go inside the building and present your library cards and pick up your holds and check them out there. So that's working pretty well, but probably not till June for the West Slope Library.
Okay. Yeah, Miles, I just had old business, new business, and visitor comments as our final agenda item. So I think we've covered it.
I think we can adjourn the meeting then.
Okay,
Meeting adjourned. Thank
meeting
you.
adjourned. So thanks for all of you attending.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right.
Best
Thank
of
you.
luck,
Bye-bye.
candidates. We'll
Okay.
see you at the voters
Yeah,
forum.
good luck.
Thank you.